You can't avoid pain. Not in this life. No matter how perfect your plans are, no matter how much good you try to do, no matter how carefully you protect your heart, pain finds its way in. You lose someone you love. You fail when you thought you'd succeed. You trust, and then you're betrayed. You try, and still fall short. That's the part of life nobody warned you about. You're told to dream big. You're told to stay positive. But you're rarely told that you will break, and that it's okay. Pain is not a sign that something's wrong with you. It's a sign that you're alive. To live in this world is to feel it all. The joy and the sorrow. The love and the loss. The wins and the wounds. But here's what most people never learn. Pain and suffering are not the same. Pain is what happens to you. It's the heartbreak, the disappointment, the loss. Suffering is what happens inside you. It's the voice that won't let you heal, the story that won't let you forget, the memory that keeps bleeding even when the wound is already closed. Suffering is the mind refusing to let go. You see, pain is natural. It's part of being human. But suffering is a habit we've practiced so long. We've forgotten we're the ones keeping it alive. There's a teaching from the Buddha, a simple sentence that carries centuries of truth. Pain is certain. Suffering is optional. What does that mean? It means you'll experience pain. You will get hurt, face loss, and stumble. But you don't have to suffer because of it again and again. Pain ends when the moment ends. But suffering continues because we hold on. We replay the moment. We dig the wound deeper. We blame ourselves. We blame others. We stay stuck in a past that no longer exists. You may not be hurting right now, but if your mind is reliving the pain, you're suffering by choice. We don't do this on purpose. It's not because we're weak. It's because no one ever taught us how to let go. We're taught to achieve, to strive, to overcome, but not how to release, not how to surrender, not how to say, it happened, and it's okay to move on. There's an old parable in Buddhism. A man is shot with an arrow. He's in pain. That's natural. But then he picks up a second arrow and shoots himself again. The first arrow is what life does to you. The second arrow is what you do to yourself. We all get hit by the first arrow. That's pain. It's unavoidable. But most of us live with the second arrow still inside us. That's suffering. Why do we do that? Because suffering feels familiar. It becomes part of our identity. We begin to believe that healing is betrayal, that letting go of pain means letting go of what mattered. We start to confuse pain with love, grief with loyalty. We think, if I stop suffering, it means I don't care anymore. But that's not true. Letting go isn't forgetting. Letting go is choosing peace over punishment. It's choosing freedom over self-destruction. You are not your pain. You are not your past. You are not your trauma, your wounds, or your worst day. You are the one who witnessed it, the one who survived it, and the one who can choose something different now. We all carry pain, but we don't all have to suffer. You were not born to stay broken. You were not created to replay misery in your mind like an endless movie. You were made to grow, to rise, to let go. It's not easy, but it is possible, and it starts with one small truth. What happened to you doesn't have to define the rest of your life. It may shape you, but it doesn't have to shatter you. It may leave a scar, but it doesn't have to become your identity. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning. And from this moment forward, you can start writing a different chapter. You can start by realizing that suffering is not something you have to keep choosing. The world may have hurt you, but you don't have to keep hurting yourself. You are not broken. You are becoming. And sometimes, becoming starts with releasing everything that never truly belonged to you in the first place. Suffering rarely announces itself. It doesn't knock on your door one day and say, "I'm here to stay." It begins quietly, subtly. It creeps in through your thoughts, your self-talk, your silence. One moment of pain turns into a moment of reflection. That reflection turns into a story. That story becomes a belief. And before you know it, you're not just remembering what happened. You're living it again and again, every single day. Not because the pain is still happening, but because your mind never stopped replaying it. This is how suffering begins. Not with what happened, but with what we tell ourselves about what happened. We begin to ask the kind of questions that have no real answers. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? Will I ever be okay again? The problem isn't in the questions, it's in the loop. The endless loop that drains your energy, poisons your joy, and keeps you stuck in a version of the past that you're no longer meant to live in. Suffering thrives in resistance, in the unwillingness to accept what is. It feeds on our attachment to how we thought life should have gone. But life doesn't follow our scripts. It doesn't honor our expectations. It unfolds in its own way, with its own timing, often outside our understanding. And so we suffer, not because life hurt us, but because we demanded it hurt us less. And it didn't. In Buddhism, the concept of tanha, or craving, is seen as the root of suffering. Craving for things to be different than they are. Craving for permanence in a world that constantly changes. Craving for comfort in a life that inevitably challenges us. It's not the pain that breaks us. It's the clinging, the refusal to release. The insistence that life give us what we think we deserve. But what if the key isn't in resisting, but in allowing? What if healing begins not when we finally get what we wanted, but when we make peace with what we didn't? To break the cycle of suffering, we must first break the habit of resistance. We must learn to say, "This hurts, and that's okay. I didn't expect this, and that's okay. I thought it would be different, and it wasn't, and that's okay too." Acceptance isn't weakness. It's power. It's not giving up. It's letting go of the illusion that you were ever in control of anything but your own response. We don't end suffering by fixing the past. We end it by being fully present. Suffering pulls us backward. It drags us into what we cannot change. But presence brings us forward. It shows us what's still possible. Every moment you spend suffering is a moment you miss living. Every second you stay trapped in the story is a second you miss writing a new one. The cycle of suffering is fueled by the stories we keep telling ourselves. But here's the truth that most people forget. You are the author of your mind. You can write something new. You can tell a different story. You can say, "Yes, I was hurt, but I'm still here. Yes, I was broken, but I'm rebuilding. Yes, it didn't go as planned, but I'm not done." Suffering ends where self-compassion begins. Not self-pity, not numbing, but real compassion. The kind that says, "I'm allowed to feel this, and I am also allowed to grow from it." You don't need to punish yourself to prove your pain was real. Your tears already did that. Your sleepless nights already did that. Your silence already did that. Now it's time to shift. Time to stop stabbing yourself with the second arrow. Time to breathe. Time to step out of the loop. You've suffered long enough. You've carried enough pain. And maybe, just maybe, this moment is your invitation to finally put it down. Not because the pain wasn't real, but because you are more real than the pain. And somewhere deep inside, there's a part of you that knows you were never meant to stay in the storm. You were meant to walk through it and come out the other side, stronger, softer, wiser, and free. Letting go is one of the hardest things we will ever do. It's not because we're weak. It's not because we're incapable. It's because we think that holding on protects us. We hold on to memories because we think they define us. We hold on to anger because we think it makes us strong. We hold on to grief because we believe it honors what we've lost. But the truth is, holding on doesn't protect you. It just prevents you from healing. You carry the pain like armor, thinking it will shield you. But all it does is weigh you down. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of suffering, not because loving or caring is wrong, but because clinging to what's already gone is like trying to grasp smoke with your hands. We suffer not because we loved, but because we couldn't accept the impermanence of that love. We suffer not because something ended, but because we believed it never would. Everything in life is temporary. The good, the bad, the in-between. Seasons change. People change. You change. But we rarely move with that flow. We resist. We demand permanence in a world that only knows movement. We say, stay, to things that are meant to leave. We say, don't change, to people who are meant to grow. And in that resistance, we suffer. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean you stop caring. Like a wave, like a breath, like a season. Because here's the secret. Letting go isn't something you do. It's something you allow. The more you try to force it, the tighter you hold. But when you become still, when you become aware, you begin to see that the pain has already passed. Only your grip remains. So you loosen your hand, you soften your heart, and slowly, gently, you let it go. Not because it didn't matter, but because you matter more. The Buddha said, you only lose what you cling to. And that's the paradox of peace. You think holding on gives you control, but it's in the letting go that you finally become free. Letting go isn't about erasing the past. It's about accepting it, then releasing it. It's saying, yes, this happened, and yes, I am still choosing to move forward. It's standing at the edge of what hurt you and choosing not to build your home there. It's acknowledging the wound but no longer living inside it. It's remembering what was without sacrificing what could still be. You don't need to keep carrying the pain to prove that it mattered. You don't need to stay stuck in grief to prove that it was love. You don't need to keep punishing yourself for a chapter that's already closed. You are allowed to close the book. You are allowed to heal. You are allowed to feel joy again. Not because the pain didn't exist, but because it no longer controls your story. And maybe that's what freedom really is. Not the absence of pain, but the decision to stop letting pain decide who you are. You're still here. You're still breathing. And that means your story isn't over. Letting go is how you turn the page. Healing is what you write next on. We live in a world that fears. Silence. A world that fills every gap with noise. Notifications, news, voices, screens. Everywhere. You look, something is demanding your attention. And yet, the deepest healing never happens in chaos. It happens in stillness. Stillness is where your pain finally has space to speak. Stillness is where your mind meets your soul. Stillness is where suffering begins to melt gently, quietly, without force. But stillness feels foreign at first, because we've been taught to run. From pain, from emotion, from the silence within. We've been told to distract ourselves, to stay busy, to hustle harder, to numb the ache rather than face it. But Buddhism teaches something radically different. It teaches us to sit with what hurts, not to fight it, not to deny it, but to befriend it. To say, you are here, I see you, and I will not run from you. Because in that stillness where there's no escape, no distraction, no noise, something beautiful begins to happen. You begin to hear the truth underneath the pain. You begin to see that what you feared wasn't the pain itself, but the silence around it, the confrontation with yourself, the still, sacred space where masks fall away and you meet the raw, unfiltered version of who you are. Meditation isn't about escaping reality. It's about seeing it more clearly. It's about creating a space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. Most suffering lives in that gap, the gap between stimulus and reaction, the space where we usually react without thinking. We lash out, we break down, we spiral. But when we cultivate stillness, when we build awareness, that gap becomes a doorway to choice, a doorway to peace. Stillness doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means everything is happening just beneath the surface. It's the moment when your heart speaks louder than your wounds, when your breath becomes your anchor, when your presence becomes your power. The Buddha didn't promise a life without storms. He offered a path to find stillness in the middle of them. And that stillness, that deep inner peace, is something no one can give you and no one can take away. It doesn't come from fixing the world around you. It comes from learning to rest within yourself, even when everything else feels broken. Imagine waking up one day and realizing you no longer need the world to be perfect for you to feel at peace. You no longer need every wound to be gone, to feel whole. You no longer need every question answered to trust the journey. You become your own refuge. You've become your own sanctuary. You've discovered a stillness that can hold anything: pain, joy, fear, love, and still remain untouched. This is what the great spiritual teachers found. Not freedom from hardship, but freedom within it. A freedom born from knowing, I can sit with this, I can breathe through this, and I will not be destroyed by this. Silence isn't emptiness. It's full of answers. Answers you won't find in books or podcasts or social media. Answers only revealed when you stop chasing, stop performing, stop hiding, and simply be. You don't need to go to a monastery. You don't need to shave your head or move to the mountains. Stillness is not a place. It's a practice. You can find it in one mindful breath, in one quiet walk, in one moment of closing your eyes and listening to the rhythm of your soul. The healing you seek doesn't begin when life gets easier. It begins when you get still enough to finally hear what your heart has been trying to say all along. You're not too broken. You're not too late. You're just too distracted. Return to yourself. Return to the present. Return to the stillness where suffering ends and peace begins. And there, you will remember, you are not your thoughts. You are not your pain. You are not your past. You are the one who observes, the one who remains, the one who is free. Asterisk healing isn't about going back to who you used to be. It's about allowing yourself to become who you were always meant to be. You don't need to erase your scars to find peace. You need to understand them. You need to honor them, because each one tells the story of how you survived, of how you kept going when it would have been easier to stop. The world may measure strength by how much you can carry, but real strength is in knowing what to let go of. It's in choosing peace, even when chaos is familiar. It's in saying, I deserve more than what hurt me. I deserve to grow. You are not here to stay wounded. You are here to evolve, to alchemize pain into wisdom, to turn silence into truth, to take what nearly broke you and build something beautiful from it. You've spent enough time reliving the moments that brought you down. Now it's time to rise, Dot. It's time to stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? What am I being called to become? Buddhism speaks not only of suffering, but of liberation, of a mind so clear, so still, so free, that even in the middle of life's storms, it remains untouched. That is not a fantasy. It's not reserved for monks or saints. It's possible for you. Right now, where you are, you've already faced the fire. Now walk out of it, transformed, tempered, unshakable. To choose growth over suffering is to look at the pain and say, I see you, I felt you, but you will not define me. To choose growth is to stop asking for the past to change and start creating a future from a place of power. Is to stop proving your worth through your wounds and start honoring your worth through your choices. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present, to be willing, to be honest. Healing is messy. Some days you'll feel invincible. Other days you'll want to give up. But if you keep choosing yourself, moment after moment, you'll see it. The shift, the light, returning, the peace forming quietly in places that once held chaos. Because growth doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from moving through it, one breath at a time, one choice at a time. Every time you say no to suffering, every time you choose presence over the past, every time you show up, even when it hurts, you reclaim your life. You become whole again, not because nothing broke you, but because you learned how to build from the pieces. You'll start to feel it in small ways, in the way your chest loosens when you wake up, in the way your inner voice softens, in the way your reflection starts looking like someone who's coming home to themselves. This is the power you've always had, not to control the world, not to undo the pain, but to choose again and again, not to suffer, to choose peace, to choose presence, to choose love, to choose life. You are not your story. You are the author, and this chapter is where you stop bleeding and start blooming, where you stop shrinking and start shining, where you stop waiting for someone else to fix you and become the one who saves yourself. You are the one you've been waiting for. You are the calm after the storm. You are the quiet strength that suffering couldn't destroy. So take a breath. Feel it all. Then choose boldly, bravely, fully to grow. Not because it's easy, but because it's time. You've done the hard part, surviving. Now comes the sacred part, becoming. There is a quiet kind of courage in choosing to live with an open heart after it's been broken. There is power in smiling again when you once believed you never would. There is strength in walking forward when your legs still tremble from the weight of what you've endured. But this journey, this becoming, it doesn't come from force. It comes from surrender. Not the kind of surrender that gives up, but the kind that gives in to the flow of life, to the present moment, to the truth that you don't have to carry everything alone. Sometimes growth means sitting in silence and listening, not to the noise outside, but to the wisdom inside. That quiet inner voice that's always been with you. The one that says, you are more than your wounds. You are worthy of peace. You are allowed to begin again. This voice may have been buried under layers of fear, pain, and shame, but it was never gone. It's been whispering through your tears, holding your hand in the darkness, waiting patiently for the day you'd stop running and turn inward instead. The day is now, right here, right where you are, without needing to fix everything first, without needing to have it all figured out. Healing doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence. It asks for your willingness to say, I'm ready. Maybe not for everything, but for something. Maybe you're ready to rest, to stop carrying guilt that doesn't belong to you, to stop proving your worth to people who never saw it. Maybe you're ready to feel joy without apology, to breathe without bracing for the next storm, to love without fear of being hurt again. Maybe you're simply ready to come home to yourself. The truth is, you never really lost yourself. You just got buried under expectations, pain, and false beliefs. Now it's time to uncover what's always been within you. A soul resilient, radiant, and real. Growth is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been beneath the noise. Every breath is a return. Every step is a renewal. Every moment is a doorway back to peace. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are unfolding, becoming, blooming. Let others rush. Let the world chase. You stay rooted. Stay present. Stay true to the path that's calling you inward. You'll find that the more you let go of suffering, the more space you create for joy. Real joy. Not the kind that comes from achievement or approval, but the kind that rises from within. Unshakable, quiet, whole. It's the joy of knowing. You survived. You transformed. And now you're free. Free to live. Free to feel. Free to love fully, fearlessly. Not because life is finally perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. You no longer need to wear your pain like a badge. You've carried it long enough. You've honored it. You've listened to it. Now it's time to thank it. And let it go. Because beyond the suffering, there is space. There is peace. There is a version of you that is lighter, freer, more alive than you've ever imagined. And that version isn't waiting for a miracle. That version is born when you make the decision, a quiet, sacred decision, to stop defining yourself by what happened to you and start defining yourself by how you rise. Life will still bring its storms, but now you carry shelter inside of you. A mind that no longer panics. A heart that no longer clings. A spirit that no longer trembles. And when pain comes again, and it will, you will not run. You will not collapse. You will sit with it, feel it, and let it pass. Because you learned that pain is not your enemy. Pain is the teacher, the mirror, the guide. It arrives to awaken something deeper in you. Compassion, courage, clarity. You no longer curse the pain. You bless it, not because it was easy, but because it led you to yourself. You've become the observer, the stillness in the storm, the soul untouched by the noise of the world. And this is the wisdom that changes lives. That suffering is not a requirement, that healing is not a myth. That freedom is not far away. It is here, now, in this moment. All it takes is one breath, one shift, one decision. To pause, to listen, to choose again. You've done something extraordinary. You've walked into your own pain, and instead of letting it destroy you, you let it transform you. You made peace with your past. You let go of the weight. You stepped into the present and discovered you were always enough. You don't need anyone's permission to begin again. You don't need anyone's apology to be free. You only need your own willingness to grow. So if you remember nothing else from this message, remember this. Pain is inevitable. But suffering? That's your choice. And today, you have chosen something else. You have chosen to heal, to rise, to live. Welcome home, to your breath, to your peace, to yourself.